Also,
I'll
Relic in Texas.
Yeah, also Relic in Texas.
All right, this is going to be an interesting one. Does humanity crave its own end? We're getting like a lot of esoteric, like really intense snippets here, like the world before music existed and negative space, and like.
And this is my jams, and it's on a day that I'm not feeling good.
Relic, welcome back.
Hello, Via and Eric. It's nice to talk to y'all again. And by the way, Eric, I swear I thought you were about to reveal some sort of audiobook for the Book of Eric. So.
Oh, man. One day.
Yeah, someday.
One day.
All right, let's dive in.
Yeah, I know this is going to be a... Oh, sorry.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say. Hey, smash that like button, everybody. Hit subscribe, ring the notification bell.
That's embarrassing.
Relic, go ahead.
We've been YouTubers for a long time, and we forgot to say like and subscribe.
Yeah, we don't do it.
Oh, gosh.
Okay.
All right. What's up?
Okay, so I know this topic's going to be a little bit darker than my last few ones, but yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. We've got this sort of reoccurring doomsday narrative that comes in every form of... I'm not going to say every form. That's uncharitable. I'm going to say that a majority of world religions tend to have a sort of end goal that ends in the world destroyed and something being renewed, and there being some sort of reward for the people who stick through their faith. And I feel that this doesn't only stick with the religion, that this sticks with all sorts of people from all sorts of walks of life, because I secretly, and this might be a little bit dark, but I think that people sort of just want there to be an end. Like they want a bookend to their existence.
Yeah, I can see that being the case. I think that there is some context here that would be helpful, which is the concept of doomsday and Armageddon and, the book of Revelation. All of this, the way that we interpret it started like in the 70s and 80s, right? That's recent. That's not everybody and has not been the case for all time. But there was a shift that happened during the Cold War where the US and probably a bunch of other Western countries as well were finding the concept of the end very present in their lives. And what they ended up doing was forming a religion around it, right? And making that religion into something else. And then that religion then fed into the culture, and it's just a feedback loop. So right now, I think you're absolutely right. It's not just religion, but I bet you anything you could tie it to the creation of the doomsday mythology in the 80s very easily.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's definitely not just religion-centric. In fact, we've had atheists call in who are trying to get out of that mindset regardless of their God belief. And they're like, I'm a survivalist and I feel panicked all the time that, nuclear war is going to happen or something else. So yeah, I think it's a human thing that has been exacerbated by how society is talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Well, yeah, but I would say that it goes back a tiny bit further because this stuff has always been in fiction as well, to where there is these very morbid sort of old school novels. For sure you have Mary Shelley's The Last Man and all these other things, taking humanity to its natural conclusion as sort of a self-satisfaction for the writer themselves. And of course, with nuclear weaponry and the sorts, I think people don't really understand that, because we've been born in it, we've been heavily desensitized to the idea that our lives could end up in a flash without any prior knowledge to anything starting. How this topic came up to me, or how it got freshened in my mind, is there was a debate on Modern Day Debate that was talking about, is the invasion of Ukraine justified? And that shocked me because immediately there should be that outspoken crowd going there is no justified reason for a war. The best way to win a war is to not play. And
depending on who you are in that war.
true. Like, I'm talking about, like, you got to defend yourself. That's one thing. But when we're talking about, like, a superpower invading someone for resources at the cost of hundreds of thousands of lives, purely for a resource and not for any actual strong reason, I don't think there's a justified reason for it.
But that might be a straw
especially when...
Relic, that might be a straw man, though.
Oh, sorry.
Because do you think that that's the narrative that they're telling themselves? Whether or not we agree that, that's the case, we have to recognize that people are operating in their own narratives. Nobody thinks that they're the villain of their own story. And so whatever they happen to think it is. And that's why you have campaigns of dehumanization across history where people will paint the other side as something vile or terrible to justify the Crusades, to justify, the prior world wars, to justify all of those. It comes from a dehumanization, conceit, not just from resources. So,
of course,
if you want to discuss it, if we're saying, oh, this person is just going to war just because of resources, that is not being the generous interlocutor that
I don't know how
be.
Generous we need to be with warlords, but point taken.
Yeah, you're not going to get through to them, and they're not going to listen to you if you say, well, you're only here for resources, and they're like, no, here's my other reasons. And you're like, well, okay, that's bullshit. Like, it totally depends on what you're, if you're just talking to us about outside stuff, okay, we're on the same page, we can move forward. But it just depends on, who you're having this conversation with.
Yeah. Relic, I think that it's worthwhile to have this conversation, but I'm not really sure where else we can go with this unless you have additional questions for us here.
Yes. One, just a quick response to the generosity. I think you have a great point, Eric, and I think that everybody does think they're the hero of their own story, but outside of that, from an objective standpoint, I mean, from just a secular humanism standpoint, war in itself causes more harm than good.
Yep.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I am more than willing to be like, someone believes they're justified, but I bet Hitler believed he was justified in what he was doing as well. And
at least
that's when
justified.
The justification gets pushed back on, because I don't really care about some dictator's feelings when it comes to hundreds of thousands of lives.
Yeah. I mean,
you're not going to get pushback from us.
Yeah, we're not going to be disagreeing there.
We can probably talk more about the topic that, as it says in the notes, does humanity crave its own end? That's something that we can bite.
That's where I wanted to lead.
Yeah, Relic, I'm actually really interested because you are a theist. Where do you think that craving comes from?
Okay, this requires a tiny bit. I'm just going to ask the question. Have any of y'all read a book called The Conspiracy Against the Human Race? It's by an author called Thomas Ligotti.
Nope, but I'm making a note. That sounds interesting.
Yeah. It's one of the darkest philosophy books you're ever going to read. And it comes from the idea that, like, people believe that existence itself is pain.
Yeah.
Oh, antinatalism.
And that there is... Yeah.
Okay.
But, like... Yeah, it's a very... Existence is a net negative, period. That, like, there are... I believe that, like, people use the end to justify a scoreboard for themselves sometimes. Like, when you have someone, let's say, who's and I'm not going to say this for any religion, I'm just saying an extremist who's like, yep, Revelation's going to happen any day now, and you just watch when it happens because I'm going to be there because I told you so. There's the indoctrination, right? And then there's the sects that are like, no, humanity has had its run, and I think we're just a scourge on the universe.
So those are two reasons that I'm sure plenty of people give. I know that there are lots that we can come up with. I really don't know where to move forward from that. That's like I mean, it
sounds interesting, and
but it's not all encompassing either. It's
right.
Just...
Relic, I think we're going to have to move on, but
That's
think
perfectly fine.
yeah, but I made a note, and I'll make sure to link that book in the description as well, in case other people want to check it out.
Relic, can you do me a favor in the meantime? Take a look.
Of course.
Are you using a cell phone or a headset?
Cell phone.
A cell phone. Take a look and see what your volume settings are, because last time you called, for some reason it was capping out, and you were kind of redlining, and it creates this really high pitched, crackling. And what's funny is because we push it down, that crackling isn't blowing people's ears out, but it is creating that sound. And when I was running a click remover through your section of the podcast, I removed over 11,000 clicks. My God. The program did.
You had no idea, did you?
Yeah. So if you could do that
I heard
for
it, and
me.
I thought it was a little bit crazy, but I thought maybe it was my phone glitching out. I don't know. I'm going to have to invest in a headset in that case if I call back again.
We would sincerely appreciate it. But by the way, if it does bother you, you could listen to the podcast, or because it's.
Eric does a lot of work to make it sound very nice and creamy. All right, Relic, thank you so much for calling in.
Take care.
Thank you all.
Bye.